I've now on the move again. I left Nantwich yesterday after they finished repairs. I'm standing down in the engine bay next to the engine. That's the base plate down there, so I'm just 10 millimeters away from the water. And what I'm doing is I'm just looking to see that everything's okay after yesterday's journey. So this is nice and dry in here, but there is a little bit of blue coolant. So I'm going to mop that out, top it up, and I'm hoping that might be just from the initial running of the engine. Here's the engine, as I say. The core plugs that were changed in the end are down here. This is the oil cooler heat exchanger, so it takes it cools the gearbox. Back here is the starter motor here, and below it the travel power generator, which generates 230 volts AC. But what I'm trying to get to is down there above that rather grubby red cable, you can see glinting there the new core plug in situ. Yes, that's a bit better, isn't it? As you can see, those things had to come off in order to do this job, because there are 4 of those core plugs along here, and that's what all the fuss has been about. So I'm just going to top up the header tank here just a little, and it's full up to here at the moment, and it really, well, it needs to have something visible in here. It doesn't really matter where it is. We leave a bit of room on the top there for expansion, and then we'll see how it goes when I move on tomorrow. Well, this is the visitor mooring at Audlem on the Shropshire Union. I'm not going to pan round to my right much more because the setting sun will blank out the camera. But it's rather pleasant here. You can hear the birds settling in the tree and the lambs bleating in the fields there. I can't see them, but I'm just about to go up to the village and look in on the famous Shroppy Fly pub. Okay, I can see the sheep now in the distance. That's what I could hear. And this is a 48-hour mooring and a water point, which is slightly awkwardly placed. I've used it in the past, but it does mean that you can only get one average to small boat on the lock landing there, waiting for the lock. So as I say, I've used it once. There is another water point just the other side of this lock, but that's also quite busy too. So I filled up as quickly as I could when I was here, because I thought if another boat comes along we could have a very awkward queue. A little feature of these locks along this stretch is that bywash that's coming in from the side there. And it does push the boat around quite a bit. And also it depends on which side of the lock you come out, because when you're single-handed it is quite handy to go on the far side, because you can just see where that white handrail is. There's a little set of steps, so having closed the gate you can then step back down onto the back of the boat as you leave going down, or you can even get up there when you're coming up. But I do remember having difficulties getting the boat to move because of the bywash. Sometimes they come out at right angles, but these run almost parallel, and it seems to hold you against the side. It's all very odd. Lock 13. I got confused today because Canal Plan AC, the web-based planner that I use all the time, and a lot of boaters use, is a bit confusing about the lock numbering along this stretch. It doesn't use the numbers that you actually find on the locks. But there's the facilities there, the L-sand, the rubbish. There's the other water point. But you notice you have to get into this little cutout, which can be a little awkward. And here is the famous Shroppy Fly pub. Of course, Shroppy is the nickname for the Shropshire Union Canal, and I read in Nantwich that there was a regular fly boat service, in other words, non-stop boat that would pick up cheeses in Nantwich and take them down the canal. So that's where it gets its name. Well, this is the centre of Audlem, a place I've passed through many times on the canal, but never actually come into the village before. So here is the Church of St James, the Great, that's it. It's actually just getting dark, but the camera's making a good job of capturing the light. This is the square, as it says on the wall. Oh, it's getting noisy all of a sudden. One of 3 pubs in the village. The Lord Combermere pub. So we have the Shroppy Fly and the bridge. And this is a remarkable thing. I've never seen anything like this before. This is a memorial to a man he was to all the country dear, in memory of Richard Baker Belize, I guess, surgeon in this town for 40 years, died 1877. It's a lovely memorial, even though it says profound but slightly chilling. By medicine life may be prolonged, yet death will seize the doctor too. Yes, an appreciation of a life spent in relieving the sufferings of his fellow creatures. Well, that's a handsome memorial. And yes, so I'm going to walk down the village now. It's getting noisy all of a sudden, and I can't help noticing that the square is actually a triangle. Still, there we go. That was quite a grand house at one point. I wonder if it still is. A house, I mean. Right, back to the boat. Well, after a busy time coming up the 13 locks to get to the top of the Audlem flight, I've now reached lock number 1. There are lots of boats, so I was passing boats constantly, which makes it a lot easier. And this is a bit famous here because of this. There's a panda's pantry. So, and we've got local pork pies and pasties in the fridge, and all kinds of pastries, and even tea and coffee on request, and a little honesty cash box. And I've just helped myself to one of the pork pies, and the lady came out, so she's doing me a coffee, and that's my lunch for today. Right, Well, I've got into the pork pie now, and I can say it's very tasty. It's a good sized lunch, and a nice little cup of hot coffee as well. So that'll keep me going whilst I cruise down here to the next flight of locks, the Audlem locks, which is only 2. So, and then after that it's a straight run into Market Drayton, where I thought I'd aim for, because the weather, well, it looks wet this afternoon, later, I hope later, but tomorrow, which is Friday? I don't know. Anyway, the next 2 days they're talking about high probability of rain and even thunderstorms. So it would be nice to be somewhere where I can tie up and ignore the weather outside. Well, a quick PS to the clip I did a few minutes ago. I said about going down the 2 Audlem locks. That was wishful thinking, because when I look in the map, I see that there are in fact 5 of them, and then it is a straight run down to Market Drayton. So we'll see how I feel. It's the most number of locks I've done in a long time, I think. But I'm sure that pork pie will help me though. Here I am, just on the outskirts of the town of Market Drayton. The bridge you can see down there is the main road into town, and there's a small marina and some permanent moorings on the other side, plus some 48-hour visitor moorings. This stretch I'm on now, I've stayed here before, and it was just a bit of riverbank, canal bank you could tie up to, but I now see it's officially a 5-day mooring. I got here yesterday afternoon and I decided not to move today because the weather forecast was that rain, overcast and thunderstorms. As you can see, it's not quite correct. We have had a little bit of rain earlier, but it's actually a lovely day. I'm still not moving though, because yesterday when I came from Audlem, although we only covered 6 miles to get here, there were 18 locks, and so I'm resting my weary legs and back